Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Jones, Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It is Monday, November 4th, 2024, and this update is for the All Hazards Consortium Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, so we can share information from private sector liaisons within emergency operations centers within states, along to their private sector partners, so we can all be on the same page at the same time, looking at things like tropical weather updates that may impact coastal areas and inland, which means we might impact the delivery of food, fuel, medical supplies, services, and of course the restoration of power. So we do have officially now a Tropical Depression 18. You can see on the GOES satellite loop here that rotation, and it has been confirmed by NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft. 35-mile-per-hour winds is what's going on right now. It doesn't have a name yet. If it does get a name, it will be Rafael, and it is forecast to strengthen. You can see here we have showers and thunderstorms that are wrapping around, and some being kicked off by the outflow, sort of like the spiral bands that are in its infant stages around here to the east of the system. But you can also see the low-level clouds rotating around this as well. Here is Jamaica. And Jamaica is under a tropical storm warning right now. Tropical storm warning. The center of the storm is expected to pass to the south of Jamaica, up towards Grand Cayman. That is under a hurricane warning. We'll get to that in just a minute. But you can see the sea surface temperature data from the GOES satellite and merging from other polar orbiting satellites as well is warm. Temperatures are in the mid 80s, low to mid 80s in the Caribbean, and we do have plenty of fuel. Now let me take this full screen. I'll show you what it looks like because you can see a wider look at the Caribbean here. To the east, we have plenty of warmth, and to the west, we have plenty of warmth. If we look towards the path where the storm is forecast to move, south of Jamaica, although Jamaica may be in quite a bit of rain and thunderstorm activity as this storm passes to its south. But you can see Grand Cayman here in the Cayman Islands. That is what's under a hurricane warning as this storm gets a little bit more mature, expected to be very close to hurricane strength when it gets into this area. What I'm focusing on right now are the sea surface temperatures as we move closer and closer to Cuba. You can see that they do cool a bit off the coast of western Cuba, and then into the Gulf of Mexico. The Florida Straits remain warm, temperatures in the 80s in here, and you can see the loop current. The loop current coming up in here, and see that patch of warm water there. That has been known to intensify storms if the atmospheric conditions exist, but then there's some cooler water as well. I'm going to show you the sea surface temperature anomaly data here in just a minute, but I do want to show you the latest information and the statistics. So at 10 a.m., the National Hurricane Center issued their advisory. It's going to be 10 a.m. now since we pushed the clocks back. Location 15.2 north, 76.9 west, 195 miles south of Kingston, Jamaica. This is at 10 a.m. East Coast time, so 2 hours ago. 400 miles southeast of Grand Cayman. Maximum winds 35 miles per hour. Movement to the north at 9 miles per hour. It's expected to change to the north-northwest shortly. Pressure down just very slightly, 1,003 millibars. So what I want to show you now are the sea surface temperature anomalies that we've been talking about over the course of several days. So here we go. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly data. And you can see the Caribbean here. Anywhere you see the colors in red or pinkish, that is above average for sea surface temperature. Anomaly just means difference. Change. It's a different temperature, so it's higher than average. And these little blue areas are pockets of cooler than average sea surface temperature. Now, that's good because the storm is going to be moving south of Jamaica towards the Cayman Islands here, and it may encounter some cooler water in its path. That's good. It's expected to be close to hurricane strength. when it reaches the Cayman Islands. And then moving over western Cuba, there's another area of cooler than average water. And then look at this. Into the Gulf of Mexico, here's that loop current that comes in and loops around, and you can see that in the temperature anomaly map much more clearly than in the GOES data that I just showed you. But look at this cool anomaly here, and this could be upwards of 2 degrees Celsius cooler than average. That could play a role in this storm as it moves over this cooler water. It may be also an indication as to perhaps why the storm is forecast to decrease in intensity somewhat, perhaps to tropical storm force as it approaches perhaps the Louisiana coastline. There's a lot of uncertainty. I'll talk about that when I show you GeoCollaborate and the forecast, official forecast. But look close to the coast. We're back to warmer than normal temperatures, warmer than average temperatures. So we have sort of a cold pool, a cooler pool, I should say, and then warmer water that the storm will be able to tap into. So these are the high-resolution temperature anomaly data, which involves modeling and multiple satellites that we take in and process that data together. Now, I want to show you something else as well, and that is called iMerge. I'm going to switch the legend, and I'm going to turn on this iMerge data, which is actually very, very interesting. I'll turn off the sea surface temperature as well. The iMerge data is really data from NASA, from the Global Precipitation Measurement Program, GPM. And that mission produces NASA's most comprehensive global rain and snowfall product to date. It's actually a little bit technical, geeky, but you know, it's cool. It's called the Integrated Multi-Satellite Retrievals for GPM, the Global Precipitation Measurement. And this product is called iMerge. It's computed using data from the GPM constellation of satellites. There's a lot of satellites that it goes into. And that currently includes the Core Observatory for GPM, GCOM, NOAA 18, NOAA 19, which are polar orbiting satellites, the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program, F-16 and DMSP F-17 and DMSP F-18, and the Europeans also contribute to this product with their satellites. Their satellites are called MEDOP-A and MEDOP-B. But the global iMerge dataset provides precipitation rates for the entire world every 30 minutes. So that's what we're looking at right here. Look at this. These are precipitation rates coming out of Tropical Depression 18 over the last several hours. And you can see with the legend down the bottom there on the right-hand side, as I scroll over this data, you can see the precipitation rate changing in real time as I scroll over it. Now, the green areas are very light. You can almost think of that as drizzle. And the satellites are sensitive enough, they can pick up that very light drizzle. And so let's zoom in just a little bit here to the Caribbean because here's Jamaica. Jamaica has been getting some rain, not overly heavy rain. You can see the rainfall rates less than 1/10 of an inch per hour. It's enough to ruin a vacation if you want to be out there enjoying the beach. However, that rainfall rate is going to increase as this area moves up towards the Cayman Islands, and Jamaica gets to be in the heavier rainfall rates. That will evolve over the next 24 to 36 hours. But the interesting thing is I can zoom out here and you can see all sorts of global precipitation. Look at this. You can see the heavy rain that has resulted in flash flooding over Oklahoma and Missouri and southeastern Kansas and parts of Texas. And also that moisture plume I talked about yesterday. Look at that. It shows up in the global precipitation measurements where that plume of moisture feeding right up into here and really enhancing the precipitation rates over Arkansas. So we can see that. And I want to show you something pretty cool. I'm not going to be able to point it out with a cursor, but I want to show you the last 7 days. Last 7 days of global precipitation. So here we go. We're looking back here. This is October 29th. Look at all the spins in the atmosphere. And you can even see Typhoon Kong Ray that impacted Asia there. You can see it spinning. Look at that typhoon, and it impacted parts of China as well. And then you can see the terrible floods in Spain. Once it starts again, watch this, in Spain, that cutoff low and all of that precipitation falling over Valencia. We can see that. This is global precipitation. We don't have land-based radars over the ocean, so how else can we see radar data? From GPM, the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission. This is really phenomenal, and we can take a look at rainfall rates anywhere in the world, which is really terrific. So now I want to show you GeoCollaborate. Let's go over to GeoCollaborate here, where we have the latest Hurricane Center forecast that was put out at 10 o'clock this morning. Again, a lot to talk about here. This is the cone of uncertainty. And when we get way out here, where it's forecast to be a tropical storm over the next several days, there's a lot of uncertainty, whether it might impact the panhandle of Florida or the southeast Texas coast, perhaps. In either case, when the storm approaches and gets into the Gulf of Mexico, it is going to be pushing water towards the coastline. So there are going to be likely coastal flood advisories that are already in effect because of strong southerly winds ahead of this trough. A lot of flash flood watches and advisories and warnings going on right now in Missouri. That's right here in these red areas. But this is the path, the latest hurricane forecast path. Let's dive into it a little bit closer here. So here's the storm, and that is the current location right now. Winds of 35 miles per hour, wind gust to 45. And even though the cone stays mostly away from Jamaica, that has nothing to do with the impacts. So Jamaica currently is under a tropical storm warning. So it's still forecast to be a tropical storm in this location. Tropical storm just west of Jamaica with 50 mile per hour winds. And that is 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. By 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, should be just west, the center. But a lot of precipitation is going to be falling over Jamaica. Very heavy rain, likely mudslides, and flash flooding. Now we move up here a little bit closer towards, this is Georgetown and Grand Cayman, and these are the Cayman Islands. So they're under a hurricane warning. That's what this red area is. Hurricane warning because the storm is going to be close to hurricane force. 70 mile per hour winds is the forecast when the center of the storm passes right between Little Cayman and Grand Cayman. That's a small, we don't know exactly what size this storm is going to be, how wide the eye is going to be, how broad the wind field is going to be. And notice, even though I have the initial wind field turned on in GeoCollaborate here, we don't have a good picture for the wind field yet because it is just a tropical depression. Once it becomes a tropical storm, we'll have more of a defined wind field that's being able to be gathered by the Hurricane Hunter aircraft. Now I want to move here closer to Cuba. As the storm gets closer to Cuba, and by the way, by tomorrow or tonight, this should become Tropical Storm Rafael. Then it's forecast to become Hurricane Rafael with 80 mile per hour winds and gusts to 100. That's a Category 1 hurricane coming into western Cuba and passing over Cuba, but maintaining its hurricane status. 80 mile per hour winds. Might be some degradation because of the land, but this will be just wrapping up. So it'll be an intensifying hurricane. So this part of Cuba, western Cuba, likely won't impact it too much. Now, here we have the hurricane here at 80 mile per hour forecast, and that forecast is for 7 o'clock on the 6th. So that's Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. And notice, here are the Florida Keys. Small craft advisories are in effect. They've been in effect for a couple of days. Small craft do not head out. Because as this storm approaches, it will kick off some big waves out there. But notice here that the official forecast has a little curve towards the northwest here. And that is the hurricane 80-mile-per-hour winds, still maintaining that and maintaining its intensity as a hurricane, but going down to about 75 miles per hour. Now, when the storm gets in this position of the Gulf, I'll zoom out here a little bit so you can see a little bit more. When the storm gets into this part of the Gulf of Mexico, there's a lot of uncertainty in the intensity. Some of the models take it to be more intense. Other models take it down to tropical storm force. However, we need to pay close attention, and I'm sure everybody will, because now we have the cone impacting parts of the Gulf Coast, and that is from the Florida Peninsula all the way over Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana coastline, including New Orleans, are under the threat of some impact from this storm. Now, this tropical storm out here, which will be Rafael, 65-mile-per-hour winds, is out on November 9th. So that's all the way out towards Saturday or Friday at 7 a.m. So we have a lot of time to watch this storm and see its evolution. But we are going to see water, no matter what, being pushed towards the Gulf Coast when the storm enters the Gulf of Mexico from the Caribbean. And that means we still may have some coastal flooding along the Florida West Coast. Right now, it doesn't look like it will be as severe as a Helene. When Helene created terrible record-setting storm surges because it came up the west coast of Florida and made landfall in the Big Bend area. So that's when the storm passed 100 miles off the coast. Here we're talking much further from the center and much further off the coast, but that's the current forecast. We're going to have to monitor it very quickly. Now, I'm going to zoom out here just for a second and geocollaborate just to give you a little bit more tropical outlook, because the National Hurricane Center here has a outlook, a 20% chance for another system to develop in the southern Bahamas and move in this direction. 20%. It looks like that chance is not going to be realized with any tropical system development. I'll show you that in the models here when I pull that up and pull that out here. So why don't we just go ahead and turn to the models, excuse me, right now. So here we go. This is the GFS, the operational model for the National Weather Service. And this is at its 6-hour forecast point. The initialization time was at 7 o'clock this morning. And I'll put this into motion so we can start to see what's happening. So high pressure off the coast of the Atlantic, the East Coast into the Atlantic, is moving out slightly because we have a trough of low pressure coming in. You can see that right here. That's been kicking off the severe weather. Oklahoma, some terrible tornadoes there over the weekend in the Oklahoma City area. And they were continuing yesterday, and then some sirens going off even yet this morning with some severe thunderstorms, potential tornadoes. But here is what was expected to be Rafael here, and that is valid at Tuesday evening. So it's tomorrow night at 7 p.m., and we'll advance this so we can watch this come across Cuba and then pass by southwestern Florida and then take a little jog towards Louisiana. Now, what's going to influence that turn? It's going to be this trough of low pressure coming through, and you can see high pressure trying to build, keep some dominance here in the Northeast. But that's what we have, is a trough of low pressure that's coming in through the Midwest. And then it wants to try to pick that system up. And you see that the GFS currently has it impacting southeast Louisiana. The forecast, official forecast for the Hurricane Center, doesn't go out this far. This is Saturday morning. So we're talking through this week. Saturday morning, this is where the models show the storm system to be, and then getting picked up with rain moving up the Appalachian Mountains. And so we'll be watching this very closely too, because we want to pay attention to the areas impacted by Tropical Storm Helene when it went up the Appalachians. And there was a terrible setup before the storm made landfall, where the mountains there in western North Carolina had upwards of 10 inches of rain before this system came through. That is not the same kind of setup that we're talking about, but it still could possibly, over the weekend, next weekend, into early week after, could result in some heavy rains and possibly some local flooding in the Appalachian Mountain area. So I'll take this backwards again. You can see right now we have the tropical depression developing. It's expected to move to the southwest, west of Jamaica, impact Grand Cayman and the Cayman Islands, and then over western Cuba, as this high pressure really remains dominant, and it's riding on the western periphery of that high pressure. And then we have an approaching trough of low pressure from the west that may sweep it up and pull it out. The good thing is that's all going to be pretty progressive. So any heavy rain that falls in the Appalachians next weekend should be moving pretty quickly. So we won't be repeating anything like we saw with Hurricane Helene and then Tropical Storm Helene. So that's it for the tropical update. We're going to keep you posted through the All Hazards Consortium, and we're going to be watching this very, very closely. It is starting to get a little bit more defined in its circulation, in its rotation, and we have plenty of sea surface temperatures, warm sea surface temperatures for it to work with. Again, here's Jamaica, partly sunny skies right now, but it looks like rain chances will increase later this afternoon into this evening and overnight, and very heavy, intense rains overnight into tomorrow morning and beyond. So I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. Thanks so much for watching this update. We'll be uploading it to the SISE Hub and also sending it through the Signal app for all the state liaisons and the private sector members and stakeholders of the All Hazards Consortium. Next update will be tomorrow about this time as well. If anything drastic happens, we see any intensification really happening quickly, then we will do another update later this evening. We'll probably ramp up the updates as the storm passes across Cuba and enters the Gulf of Mexico. So thanks very much for watching. Please enjoy the rest of your day. If you live along the Gulf Coast, please stay posted on the status of this storm and start thinking about what plans and what you're going to do if this storm should threaten late in the week or early in the weekend. So please keep yourself safe and watch out for your neighbors. We'll see you again tomorrow.